Stanford University.
Seminar on people, computers, and design. Starting off a new year, great to see a big crowd. I'm Terry Winograd, and been running this series for quite a few years. We have a whole cast of really interesting speakers we have in the past, and we've got a bunch coming up this year. Several people from Stanford, including the music department, the art department, electrical engineering, people from outside, Microsoft Research, Mary Morris is coming, Dave Kirsch from UC San Diego. You can look at the schedule. I'll show you in a minute. Anyway, I'm looking forward to all the talks this quarter. Let me first show you the places to look. The website, hci.stanford.edu/seminar, has the full schedule and link to every talk. There is the abstract for that talk when I get it. So they aren't all there for the quarter yet, but they'll be filling in as we go. If you would like to receive a weekly email notice of the talk, you can go to the Stanford mailman system and subscribe to PCD-seminar. And the TA is Lauren Yu, where'd Lauren go? Over there. So if you have questions, administrative questions, you can mail him or mail me, and we'll deal with it. This is a course which you sign up for on Access. If you are a student, you get 1 credit for attending all of the talks. And since the talks are on the web, the policy we've said is you have to attend 8 of the 10 in person. It's discouraging for speakers if everybody is watching remotely. And you can miss a couple and watch those online. At the end of the quarter, you'll be asked to send me a certification under the honor code that you have actually done that. For the in-class, we have a sign-up sheet that's going around. And if you sign the sign-up sheet, that's fine. You've done what you need to for the day. If you miss it, then you're going to need to certify it. And if you miss a sign-up sheet going around, you can come up at the end of class and we'll have it up here. You get 1 credit just for attending, no homework, no exam, just showing up. And if you're signed up for on SCPD, the Stanford, whatever it's called, professional development, then you can watch them all online. Those of you who are watching online probably know that already. And they are also available both streaming at the time it's happening and afterwards. And if there's a problem with the links, let me know. Sometimes we have to juggle a little bit to get the links working right. But you should be able to link back to any of the talks. Okay, any organizational questions, administrative questions? This runs all 3 quarters. And we're already starting to line up the speakers for winter now. Today, we have one of the things that is so wonderful that happens at Stanford. Tristan came in. I got to know Tristan several years ago. I've forgotten exactly how many, as an undergraduate, I think, at the time. And enjoyed having him in classes. Then he came in with this project, and I said, well, it looks like a good project. That sounds interesting. You should work on that. And then he came back and he said, well, I'm starting a company. And I said, well, that sounds like a good company. You should work on that. And then he came back and said, well, we've made deals with these major newspapers and the BBC and stuff. And I said, oh, it's a real company. So as with other Stanford students in the past, he's taken an idea that he started working on as a student and moved it forward to where it's now actually a major, not a major company yet, but actually a really interesting and upcoming company. So I thought he'd be a good person to start off the year. And he'll be talking about his company, Apture, and the product that they've developed.
Great. Thanks a lot. Is this on? Is this working?
It's for the remote.
OK, got it. Great. So I'm Tristan. As Terry said, I was an undergrad here at Stanford. I graduated in 2006 and I started my master's degree the following quarter as a co-term, and then I actually stopped out to start the company. And as Terry said, we actually started this as a project really with the Knight Fellows, if you're familiar with the Knight Fellows program at Stanford. And what it was really about is, well, I'll sort of jump through this. It's really about newspapers. We started off by saying, this is back in 2005, and newspapers online were really just taking their flat pieces of text that they were printing in the newspaper every day and just posting it on the web. And we sort of stepped back and said, we're sitting here with the richest communication medium we've ever had available to us. why are we still publishing flat pieces of paper on the web and then just connecting them with links to more flat pieces of paper, figuratively speaking, as web pages? And so we started thinking about, what is the futuristic, more rich, more multidimensional, more interactive version of news on the web? And that got us down this path of just trying to enhance how all information is communicated on the web. So if you look back at kind of every new medium that's ever been created, what often happens is people treat it like the previous medium. So with film, obviously, it resembled the sort of things that you'd see on stage when you first were making movies, when the video camera was first invented. So people would just point the camera at a theater stage and then say, OK, let's film this. And then suddenly they had this epiphany that, oh, wait, we can move the camera. We can do dynamic things with the camera. We can move it all around. And the web, I sort of see it as the same thing, where we can, the web resembles these pages of information with links to connect to other pages. And then there's this epiphany. What could you do when you have that epiphany? What is that epiphany for the web? What are the new places you can move the camera for the web? And we think there's things like interactivity, there's rich media, and there's people, obviously, that you can connect. And so we thought that we could do a lot better than what newspaper websites were doing at the time. And again, this was about 2005. And since then, newspapers have improved their websites quite a bit. But we looked at two core problems. The first one was navigation, and the second was kind of richness and interactivity. So with navigation, we looked at how people were reading news. And we found that the number of seconds it really takes to get to that information is really critical. And if you think about the switching costs, like you're reading this article here about Tango on the Wall Street Journal, and you're reading the article, and then suddenly you want to switch to this other article, well, that only takes, let's see here, 1 to 2 seconds, right? I mean, you move, well, not 1 to 2 seconds, but basically it's instantaneous. You just move your mouse, you move your eye over, and you can start reading the other article. And if you compare that to the experience of a website, this is actually, I think, a screenshot of the BBC in 2006, because these slides are stolen from probably something I showed you in 2006. And you're on a page, and you're sort of looking at that article, and then you're looking at that article, but all you're getting is the headline. And to actually go deeper, you've got to click and make the judgment that, OK, I do want to click. So you move your mouse over, you click, and then, of course, you have to wait for the builds to load, wait 1 to 3 seconds for the other page to load. And if you decide, OK, this isn't actually what I want to read, what do you have to do? You actually have to move your mouse back up here to the back button and hit back. And this sounds really obvious, but that's a serious cost. That's a lot of work just to read one single piece of information. And we've been focusing, the web has been focused this entire time on pages that you have to navigate in this way. Click on a page, visit the page, press the back button. And we thought that there was something more than that. So this really involves an action of choice, and it's not really interactive in the sense that it's hard to define what is choice versus interactivity, but this forces people to dive down and make a commitment to this article, to click on it, induce the load time, and then hit the back button and know that they're going to have to carry on those costs. So we looked at navigation models of the web, and there's really two that have actually been used in all sort of computer-based navigation for the most part. There's the forward-backward navigation model in Windows Explorer, in IE, and then there's the asynchronous model of opening up new browser windows and opening up new tabs. But for all of these different models, you lose your context. You're forced to leave your context, go to this other room, and then come back. And so what could you do that's a little bit more intuitive? So that's the first problem. Second one was richness. It's kind of funny. If you look at, you all remember Microsoft Encarta, or at least some variant of it? I mean, Grolier's Encyclopedia, 1995. We're talking about 13 years ago. We had this rich encyclopedia where you could browse through multimedia in this connected way, and you could get exactly what you wanted, and you clicked, and it was just, boom, you get the media. And what's funny is we have more media today. We have 13 years of more powerful computing, and we're still publishing basically this, a flat piece of paper. And it's kind of funny. I mean, the web today isn't at least as rich as something that was created 13 years ago, albeit with maybe millions of dollars of funding and a top-down curation strategy where you pay a bunch of people to write encyclopedia and connect all this content together. And so we think that there's a lot more to be done than just publishing these flat pieces of paper. So one example, Google, just flat piece of paper. Now, not saying that web results should be different, but again, just a flat piece of paper. Wikipedia, most blog pages, just flat pieces of paper for the most part. So taking a step back, what could you do to change this? Well, there's a few new things that are going on that enable whole new forms of rich media and connectivity. The first is the other dimensions of the web, interactivity, people, rich media, the things I mentioned before. And then there's broadband penetration. And this has increased dramatically in the last really 3, 4 years. So many people now have broadband in their homes that you can actually push more content more quickly on pages that you don't actually need people to click through. The other thing that's going on is that there's so many of these new rich media sources. So whether it's YouTube is developing sort of a library of the world's video content, and Flickr is developing a library of the world's photo content, and Wikipedia is developing the world's reference library, and Scribd is creating the world's PDF document library. And the Internet Archive, if you know the Internet Archive, is creating a library of other media as well. So everyone's creating a library of all this open, free, rich media. And who's putting it to work? Not really anybody, except in this individual sort of copying and pasting embed codes form. The other thing is, for the first time with that media, you have the licenses to actually do something with it. You're legally allowed to take that video on YouTube, post it on your site, post a blurb of Wikipedia, post a photograph. You can actually do something with that content. But the vehicles that we have to move that content around are really cumbersome. So we wanted to take all of these things and actually do something new. And then one thing I wanted to sort of go into before I go into the demonstration of how the software works is you have to be careful, because you have so much information, you have so much media out there, that you don't want to give people more choices. You don't want to give people an overwhelming experience. I think all of us can relate to this tidal wave experience of diving through Google search results, diving through YouTube and clicking on related videos, and you're spending all this time there, and you're not sure which videos to click on, and you can always go deeper on the web. So how do you make it a satisfying, gratifying, simple, organic experience, rather than sort of where you're doing all the work and you're faced with more choice? There's a great book written by a professor at Swarthmore, Barry Schwartz, who wrote a book called The Paradox of Choice: Why the Abundance of Choice Robs Us of Satisfaction, or Why the Culture of Abundance Robs Us of Satisfaction. And the idea is that when you give people more choices, they actually start, there's sort of a critical point where they start walking away, where they feel like there's too many choices. And we wanted to sort of use that, sort of take that problem and solve it by limiting the amount of information that's on a page, rather than exposing more search results, more related media. So it's really about this: progressive disclosure of information. Letting you go deeper, one step by step. So I'm talking about a lot of different things right now. I know it's sort of out there. I will say, feel free to interrupt with questions if you have questions. I'm pretty informal about it. Let me show you how the software works and what the hell I'm talking about. So let's see here. Hide others. If you've got a web page and you're the BBC and you want to tell a story, what if you could do things like you're talking about bonobo monkeys, and you are talking about how, first of all, what are the difference between bonobos and different kinds of apes, like cotton-tipped tamarins, lemurs, and gorillas. Well, if you could click on, say, bonobo, and maybe get a little Wikipedia blurb without leaving the page. Now, I know what you're all thinking. OK, this is just a pop-up. And we've seen pop-ups for the last 10 years on the internet. Again, what we're trying to do is really make it more than just this single dimension of content. It's the idea that as I was reading this article, this term piqued my interest, and I wanted to know more. So I got to click on it. I got to see some more information. And if I click on the photograph, maybe I get to see a slideshow of images of bonobo, right, where they're located. I can even maximize this. So you have some unique actions in the software. I can close this up. I can maybe dive into the table of contents. And I can go into the physical characteristics of bonobos. And while that's loading, maybe I can open up this image down here. This is an image from the BBC's own library on bonobos, a little baby bonobo. It's hard to see that that's actually a monkey. But, and then you can click on maybe show info box and see, how Wikipedia has these right-hand sidebars, and you can actually see other information like core data, and you can click on core data, and you want to know what the core data family is, or phylum is, and you can go as deep as you want. Now, you could go overload. Some people say, well, you could open up 10 pop-ups on the page, and you've eclipsed the page. But that's also sort of like opening up 10 different tabs in a web browser. You can always go overload. But we want to make it really easy so that someone who's on this page can easily dive down deeper. So they've linked Kanzi, this photo of bonobo. And we also have other types of media. So maybe you want to show someone where Indonesia is. I mean, most people in the United States probably can't identify where Indonesia is on a map. You could click on Indonesia, and you might be able to see a map of Indonesia. You could double-click and dive in and interact with the map, and then without ever leaving the page. One last example I'll show you is, again, if you're the BBC and you're trying to tell a story, so not just providing reference material and background, but actually telling a story in a different way, and you're trying to articulate why bonobos are more intelligent than other types of chimps. or other types of monkeys. Well, you could click on this video, and maybe you'll see, I don't know if you can see this here, it's very compelling to suddenly show a bonobo play the piano. And there's sort of this moment when you see that your heart sort of sinks for half a second. And that's something you can't really deliver with a really good textual narrative. That means, if you have a really good textual storyteller, you can deliver something like that. But how do we complement the text on the internet with other types of media that really get people to freeze in their seats and think about something for a second? Maybe you weren't interested in bonobos, but we can get you interested by showing you some other rich media. So this is one example of how the BBC is using the software. I also wanted to show you what you might be able to do if you're doing investigative journalism. So I keep forgetting I can look down here. So the Washington Post is one of our publishers using the software. And when you're doing investigative journalism, a lot of times you will say things like, records show that X, or in a confidential memo, he said, Y. Well, again, with the first time on the internet, we actually have all those documents that they're talking about. We have all those speeches and videos they're talking about as well. So on this article in the Washington Post, this is about immigrants and detainees, immigrants being detained and drugged and deported in the United States. And so there's this link here. It says, according to a confidential June 21st memo. And it has this document icon there. So if I click on the document, I can actually see maybe the confidential June 21st memo from the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Department. And I could read the document. I can even zoom in. And a lot of times you'll see documents that have sort of parts that are blacked out. Let's see here. I can go, the government lawyers sought a court order and actually see the stamped court order. This is the kind of cool stuff that you could only do on the web. You can't do it with a flat piece of paper that doesn't have all these interactive features. You can't do it unless you have multimedia connectivity. You can't do it unless you have people doing the work. Algorithms couldn't find these documents automatically. So this is all about trying to create that richness that I was talking about. And again, for the navigation side, each of these windows are hosted within the browser. There's no browser plugins required. And the cost is so low to click on a link and see it right in the page that people end up clicking lots of these links. They don't feel link averse. I think a lot of you probably are on the internet and you see these hyperlinks to, they hyperlink the word Africa in a New York Times article, and you click on it and you get to this other long page with every article that mentioned the word Africa. And it's not really useful. And so what we're trying to do is make it not only useful, but really low cost to access the information. So I'm trying to think. Let me go forward and also show you what this might look like with sports. So say you're reading an ESPN article, and you'd like to know more about receiver Chad Johnson. So you can maybe click on Chad Johnson and get the little, oops, they put a pre-roll ad here. But you get the little sports widget on all of their stats. I'll zoom into this so you can see. You can get all of their touchdowns and yardage and where he's born and all that information, and you don't have to leave the page. So again, making that information accessible. Another example of storytelling on the web, if you wanted to say, I'm not a football fan myself, but I found this video really compelling. If you clicked on Keith Rivers, and you can actually see the moment that this guy was drafted, and he gets the phone call from his coach.
Yes. Hey, how you doing? Good.
And I'll jump ahead.
Yes, sir.
And it's that sort of moment that, again, I'm not a sports fan, but what can you do to really drive that emotional connection, that empathy? You can't always do it with text. You might need to complement it with other different media. And sort of the more media I think you disclose on a page, the deeper, the more rich the experience gets for the person, and the more that they want to keep clicking around your website, which is one of the benefits to the publishers that we talk to. I'll show you lastly what it might look like with a music review. One of our big blog sites that's using the software is Pop Matters, which does a lot of music reviews. And we've integrated with a company that actually has partnered with all 4 major record labels. So you can actually view and link all 4 major record labels worth of music using our software. Not the 30-second clip. I'll say that again, the full song. It's a big deal. So if you're on a page and you're reading about Less Than Jake, and you could say, well, who's Less Than Jake? And you can actually open up the little Wikipedia article. Again, click on the photograph, maximize the photograph. And maybe you want to hear one of their songs. So you go down to this page, and I don't know if you can see, but you have this little audio icon here. And you can click on the audio icon and see the song. And maybe while you're watching a video of the live concert performance, let's see, actually not that one, this one here. Here's the live concert performance. And you can open up maybe the PDF of the lyrics of the song while you are listening to the song. And having this kind of experience is just it's just a world apart. I mean, it's leaps and bounds different from what you get on the web every day. So I think we can all agree, actually I'll show you one last example, totally different example, totally different, not publishing, but maybe a Craigslist ad, right? How many times have you been going through Craigslist, you're trying to find your new apartment while you're at Stanford, and none of them stand out to you. None of them are different, and you have to go and visit each single one before you really know, what it would be like. Well, if you're trying to buy a new home, it totally makes sense for Craigslist to basically include rich media to say, well, where's that home located, and here's the map. Or what does the kitchen with the granite countertop look like? And you can actually see here the kitchen with the granite countertop without leaving the page. Or maybe your kids are going to be going to school near this new home, and you're interested to know the schools nearby. You could click on Gun High School. You could open up the photograph. You could read all about gun. Anybody here in this room went to Gun High School? Usually have a few Palo Alto people. And you could dive into the table of contents and look at the academic reputation of the school. And maybe you can even see the teachers at Gun High School without leaving the page. So, and this is a video buried on YouTube. It's out there, but how do you bring it to someone's attention? How do you use it to create a richer experience for a Craigslist ad? So I think, stepping back for a second, we can all agree that there's something, yeah, question?
Lovely, just about coming up and then going away.
Yeah.
So I don't have 1,000 windows on my page.
Right,
Can you
right.
say something about that?
What's that?
Can you say something about?
Yeah, actually, what I can do is I can explain the interactive models that we've developed and what I'm doing to make all this sort of work. It looks kind of smooth. But what I wanted to say is that I think we can all agree that there's something we all know exists on the web. We all know that there's this layer of contextuality that when you're reading something, as it piques your interest, you wish you could learn more. You wish you could dive deeper. And it's clear that if you could actually pick the right content to show up here, this is a really valuable experience. So the real question is, how do you pick this content in an efficient way and make editors, really capable of actually producing these experiences, also for people that are non-technical? I mean, I can do this, but sure, I'm a computer scientist from Stanford. How about enabling someone who's a journalist, who's a 20-year-old who never, used a computer except for email? How can they produce an experience like this too? And that's what I'll show you next. But to get to your question, the way that this works, we've got sort of a delayed hover model. So if you mouse over this, nothing actually happens, right? But if you stay here for half a second, then the window opens. And there's 3 ways you can close this window. You can click on the link itself, or you can click on the close box. But we developed a third way because sort of from a, I'm trying to think now if it's not really Fitts law, but if you, and I'm trying to remember my terminology from Terry's 147 class, a lot of times when you're trying to close something, like a little close box, you'll overshoot, right? So you're like, oh, I want to close this box, I overshot. But so closing a window is one of the most common actions you're going to do when you're using a system like this. You want to, as equally as you want to see it really easily, you want to also close it really easily. So we made the entire page a click target. So if you click anywhere on the page, it just goes away. And so that also applies when you have multiple windows open. So the way we've done it is you open up, here's Palo Alto, here's a video, and assuming this opens up, you can also, by the way, see a map of Palo Alto. There it is on a map. And if each click that I do closes the last window.
Now, are the other links on the page not accessible? Do you have to close these windows before you?
No, I could if I wanted to open up this one. Yeah. But again, closed, click close, and then if I double click, all of them go away. Right? So it's not something that you'll know when you come to a page. It's very much a paradigm shift. We were just talking in the lunch beforehand that we sort of think of it like we're introducing a new browsing behavior on the web, and we want it to be a standard. We don't want it to be a one-off service like some of these other competitors who are doing kind of pop-ups. We want it to be a standard way of interacting on the web, and so we're going to be developing tutorials that make it really easy to train people how to click around. So let me show you basically how this experience gets created. So I've got a blog here. First of all, let me take a step back. The software is not enabled by browser plugins. So if you wanted to see this, you could go to any of those pages I showed you, and you would actually be able to interact with those links. And so the way it's actually accomplished is if I look at the source code of this page, all of it is enabled by this script tag here. So I don't know how many of you have a website or used Google Analytics. For Google Analytics, you put one line of code at the template at the bottom of your website. Same thing for us. Just put one line of code in your website, and this is enabled. So what do I mean by that? I mean, if you're on a page and you wanted to link up this sports blog post about Tiger Woods and Mickey Mantle and the Yankees, how would you create that experience from this flat piece of text? It must be difficult, right? So our software makes it really, really easy. All you do is you press the E key in your keyboard, and this Apture dashboard pops up in the top right-hand corner. And then you can click on Sign In, and it asks you what is your email address and password. And I got a special account, so I don't have an email address. And once I'm logged in the top right-hand corner here, it says that editing is on. Highlight the text you want to link, or click between paragraphs to embed media. So what if it were as easy, if I wanted to link up Tiger Woods, to just select Tiger Woods like this. It rounds my selection to the nearest boundary, and then does a search for all multimedia on the web related to Tiger Woods. So think of this as your media universe. This is your color palette of media that you would want to link to into your page, right? So we have Amazon. I'll zoom into this so you can see it a bit better. We've got reference materials from Amazon, Wikipedia. If I click on Wikipedia, I can see all the Wikipedia results. We've got Crunchbase and IMDb. We've got web videos from about, I think web videos is like 8 different providers. It's Hulu, it's VO, Metacafe, Google Video, YouTube. It's not just the standard. Every startup in the world cites Wikipedia, YouTube, and Flickr, and we really want to sort of push that we've got a lot of different sources. You can also search Reuters videos for Tiger Woods, or ESPN videos for Tiger Woods, for example. We also have images here from all around the web related to Tiger Woods. These are freely licensed Creative Commons images. Again, you can only do this if you've got freely licensed content, or content by the terms of use allows you to embed it into your page. We've also got news articles, we've got maps, we've got music, we've got documents. So taking a step back, what does this all mean? I just did a search for Tiger Woods. If I click on this article here, here's the Wikipedia article for Tiger Woods. And if I want to link it, there's this button down here, link this item. And I'll just wait for the article to load for a second. There it is. And if this is the article I want to link, I just press one button, link this item. So the use case is I'm not an individual user. I'm actually the publisher of this blog who wanted to link this article to my blog post to enhance it. So what I mean by that is anybody who comes to this page, I'm stepping out of my editing shoes now, I'm hitting disable. So now I'm a mom in Iowa, and I'm coming to this page and I want to learn more about Tiger Woods, right? I'm the end user. So I can just click on Tiger Woods, open up the article, open up a slideshow of photos, dive into the slideshow, open up these, there's him, he's a little kid in television. And you can expose all of that content, including maybe where he's born in Cypress, California. And you don't have to leave the page. You can see a map of Cypress, because I don't know where that is. Oh, it's in LA. And again, double click, and I'm back. So that's the editing experience. You want to make it really easy, one click, to just add this content to your page. And I want to make it clear, it's not just about the pop-ups. There's actually a way to embed the content directly in the page as well. So if I go into editing again, when I mouse between paragraphs, I get this gray line. And this article here is about Mickey Mantle and the Yankee Stadium. So maybe I want to go here and click on this line, and it says embed media. So it creates a space between those two paragraphs and says, what would I like to insert between those two paragraphs? So maybe I can type in here, Yankee Stadium, New York. And we automatically go out and find maps here. So here's Yankee Stadium. Puts the pin on the map, and there's Yankee Stadium. And I can say, this is where Mickey Mantle played ball, and hit OK. And then I can sort of choose the framing I want. I can zoom out and create exactly like the frame that I want, and hit link. And then with one click, this map is now embedded into the page. So what's neat is that when you're doing editing on the live web page, you actually have WYSIWYG style control. So you can actually grab this corner, say I screwed up, I really want it to be this wide or this tall, and you have complete control over exactly how you want it to appear. So let's save. There it is. And there's the pin. And it's that easy for me, again, an individual journalist who's 20 years old, who just graduated from college and never really used anything besides email. I can understand how to add this content. Another really neat feature that we have that's really useful is we let you link to a specific time in a video. So again, what can you do with the web that you couldn't do with any other medium? Instead of just creating a line connecting this page with this video on YouTube, what if you could actually reference a specific moment in a video? So here we've got, let's see if I can find one, Mickey Mantle videos. Here we go. Here's Mickey Mantle and Ernie Banks. All right. So maybe there's this moment up here in the video. Maybe it's right here, 1 minute and 7 seconds. So you zoom in here. You can see we're at 1 minute and 8 seconds. So Apture actually lets you go down here to this clip time feature. And you can say, I want to link to 1 minute and 7 seconds up until 2 minutes and 32 seconds, or whatever I want to type, right? And with that easily, I can basically link that content into my page. So when the video plays, notice it jumps right up ahead to that source, right? And maybe I want to add some related media here because people actually don't know who Mickey Mantle is. So it's fine to watch the video, but if I want to give someone background information, I could click on Add Related Media, and it says, what would you like to add? So I'm going to go ahead and here and search for Mickey Mantle and grab the Wikipedia article. And I'll link this Wikipedia article. So basically, again, the end use case is I'm on this page, and I'm a grandma in Iowa, and I want to know who Mickey Mantle is because I remember him from my days in college. And I can open up the video, and I can open up the Wikipedia article. And the killer use case is if I can drag these two next to each other, I can be reading all about the guy as I'm watching the video. I don't know, if you're like me and you're a young consumer and you love simultaneous consumption of media, this is sort of like the end all of like how the web should work. And this is what we're trying to allow people to do. There's all sorts of other ways you can use it as well. I'm going to do, let's see if I've got an example here that might be relevant. So this is one of my favorite musical artists. Let me go into his post page here. There we go. All right, so this is one of my favorite musical artists. And if I wanted to link up this page, maybe I want to add some music or some sheet music to this site, right? So I'm just trying to give you a sample of some different ways you might use the software. Again, if I'm on this page, maybe I want to link Yann Tiersen to his song. So notice music popped up here at the top results category. And I can link one of his songs, say La Nuit. And he plays the accordion. So this is the song I want to link. It's the whole song. I hit link this item. And there's the music. And then maybe I want to actually do some of my own content. Maybe I play the piano and I've got some sheet music on my computer. I go to this upload tab and I can choose file from my computer. Go into music and sheet music, and I've got some music in here from him. I'll link a different song, but you get the idea. So I've got a PDF. I'm going to upload the PDF directly from my computer to this page. Let's see if this works. It's converting the PDF to Flash so that, I don't know if you've used the PDF viewer from Adobe. No offense to anybody at Adobe, but it's sort of a clunky, heavy experience. What if you could actually convert the whole thing to Flash and maybe show the sheet music so that while you're maybe listening to the song, you could be browsing the sheet music. And I'll close this in a second here. So while you're on the page, you're browsing the sheet music, you're listening to the music, and you never left the page to do it. And that's the sort of thing that, again, we enabled you to do that no other software really lets you do. And it's sort of one of those things you have to rethink all publishing because there's so many different opportunities of different kind of media you can connect together. Imagine you're trying to write about a, yeah, question?
Often we see that the background scrolls
Yes.
when the windows pop up. And how did you figure out what would be the best way to do that?
Sure. That's a great question. If you all heard that, the question was if you're on a page with Apture and the background scrolls when you open a window. So if we have an interaction model so that if you click on a song or any piece of content, if it fits in the screen, it just shows up. If I have to open up another piece of content, we dynamically scroll the page down to show the content. And if this works right, if I close it, it scrolls back up. So it's those small touches that actually make the entire experience. We spent a lot of time, I can talk all about the user testing, and not really the user testing, but the long thought out design process of how to make this work the most smooth way. We didn't do a lot of user testing, we just sort of used our intuition and realized that if you're going to provide a pop-up experience where the screen can get cluttered very quickly and easily, you really have to guide people as much as possible to the right results. And it's really those small touches that make the entire difference. Anyway, what I was saying earlier is just it's really going to be up to these editors and publishers to create the most dynamic and rich experience that they can think up. So if you were writing a food review for the New York Times, imagine being able to link a PDF of the menu with the Yelp review of a few user comments, with the video of the chef talking about his latest creation, with a Wikipedia article about the restaurant, with a map of where the restaurant's located, with an open table widget to reserve a spot at the restaurant right now. And that's the sort of application that we're trying to build in a way that we have this sort of bet that the richer the communication is, the more likely you are to convert someone to actually being interested in doing something. So in other words, in that Yelp restaurant review example, if I can really tell the story of that restaurant in a more compelling way than just the flat text, that's going to translate into a lot more people going to that restaurant because I've been able to really show you every deep related piece of information about the restaurant and why you might be interested. In the same way that I'm not interested in football, but that Keith Rivers example of him getting drafted kind of draws me in. And so we have this theory that through Richness itself, you can actually do a lot more things on the web in terms of action than you could without the richness, without the flatness. So I think, is there any other example that I might be forgetting I want to demo? So let's see here. I'll just dive back in the slides, and I can also answer some questions. Sure.
Can you talk about your revenue model and whether newspapers, which are going broke, can put advertisements on these
Yeah, sure.
pop-ups?
Yeah, so from a business perspective, the question was, what's our revenue model, and how can publishers and advertisers actually monetize the experience? This is free for bloggers, to be clear, so all of you could actually go to apture.com today and get it on your blog. It's one line of code to install. It works on all browser platforms. It works on all CMSs. So the revenue model is basically, if you are a publisher like the Washington Post, and you are basically trying to fit as much content onto that page as you can, and you're trying to fit as much advertising onto that page as you can, but you could easily add 10 advertisements and the page gets really long and it gets really polluted with all the stuff you don't want to see. So it's always that balance of how do I fit this ad at the top, this ad here on the side, and maybe these ads here on the right-hand side. Well, with Apture, maybe you can link another video like the Iron Man video trailer, and you get the Washington Post video player, and you get a small advertisement underneath it. So what we're doing with the Post is we actually share revenue in the additional advertising impressions that we help them serve, and including the pre-roll of the video here. So if I maximize this, not only do you get the pre-roll, but you also get a 728 by 90 advertisement at the bottom down here. And so that's how we work with publishers, and we really, our business model is based on working with publishers, not on working with the bloggers. We really want to empower a blogger in Tehran to blog about Ahmadinejad as much as we want to empower editor at the Washington Post to do investigative journalism. Yep.
From an end consumer's point of view, I am assuming that a 21-year-old probably editor may not be using HTML code or something to develop applications before this application. What are the substitutes for this product for them, like other editors, or how much marginal value do you think will this product bring to the end consumer?
To the end consumer or to the publisher?
Whoever wants to change a plain content to a rich media content.
Right. So the main benefits for publishers are that you're keeping people on your site. So if you're the New York Times, well, it doesn't matter who you are. It's known that the more you link out, the more authoritative you become as a source, because the more transparent you are about the fact that you're sending people away to other sources. So Drudge Report, if you know that site, is a great example. They don't do anything except for aggregate editorially links to lots of other content. But if you're Drudge Report, if you're New York Times, if you're Washington Post, you want to link out while keeping people on your site, or at least you want them to come back to you. And so what this is about is really increasing the time spent on those publishers' websites and increasing the interactivity and engagement and the likelihood that they're going to come back. But that's the benefit for the publisher. For the user, I hope it's pretty clear that you can browse all this information without actually leaving the page, which is sort of a cost-benefit thing. And being able to have that seemingly endless experience that, what do you think? Do you think?
My question was, let's say I write a piece of text, and I want to embed 5, say, video plus music,
right,
XYZ stuff in my text.
Right.
What are the other options apart from using Aperture technology? Like, can't I just go to the web, figure out the content, and put it in HTML code if I'm comfortable?
Oh, I see. Yes,
or use
absolutely.
some other editors.
Right.
Something else like.
Right. So there's added value features like being able to link. So the question was, to repeat it, what are the added value features of doing it with the Apture way, embedding some content using the Apture way, or doing it with copying and pasting an embed code or a script tag from some other publisher? It's really its efficiency, so it's much easier to do it. It's kind of a point-and-click interface. The second is sort of these added value features where you can link to a certain time in a video. You can link to a certain page of a PDF. I didn't show you that, but you can actually link to, out of a 300-page PDF document from the United Nations, you could link to page 33 where there's that one chart that you want to sort of tell a story from. We let you do that. You can't do that unless you've got a big technical team and you sort of know how to do that. We also let you link to a specific time offset in a podcast. We also let you link to a specific slide in a PowerPoint presentation. We let you link to a certain section of a Wikipedia article. The Wikipedia example is one thing that's not possible. You can't really embed a Wikipedia article right now. Yep.
So with this approach to sort of augmenting pages by embedding collateral information, what's the notion then of a bookmark and even of history? Is it, there's a lot of presentation stuff versus just pure content.
Right. So we're working on an addressing model that would satisfy that. So the question was, how do you, when you're presenting all this content, what's the idea of a bookmark? Are you bookmarking the page? Are you bookmarking that set of windows as they're displayed at that specific arrangement? And the answer is again, unlike other services that go out there and do this, we do want to make this a web standard and a web feature. So we're working on addressing models that you could reference this specific state of windows that were open at that time, or being able to share a specific item that was displayed, things like that. Wow. Okay. Sure.
So you have a subordinate relationship of, for example, you have lyrics within maybe a blog entry.
Right.
If I locate the lyrics via someone's blog and then I want to dismiss the blog and work on translating or tablature on the lyrics for the rest of the afternoon, how would I lose that subordinate relationship? How would I focus on just the lyrics and say, this is my content I want?
Right. So for any piece of content, let's see here. For any piece of content, you can actually access the source material. We want to make that a standard feature. We don't at all want to inhibit you from going the full distance. So if I open up this PDF, for example, if I mouse over this, the title, it turns blue. So this is our mechanism for basically linking to the source material. This opens up scrib.com, and unfortunately this document is private because I've uploaded it through Apture. But if I open it up, for example, this music item with iMeme, I click on it, and it brings me back to iMeme's webpage, where they get the full ad impression, where I can consume the content and add other comments, or I can all the features that iMeme basically adds, I can do it through them. Same thing with Wikipedia. It'll take you back to the Wikipedia page. Same thing with YouTube. It takes you back to YouTube. Yeah?
You mentioned that you could link to a particular page or PDF. Can you essentially link to an anchor on a web page as well?
Not yet, but those are all sorts of things we want to do. I mean, it comes down to, there's a really great New York Times article written about this, that web links right now are really flat. I mean, there was this idea early on in the web that you put these anchor links on your pages and you can link to a specific, jump to a certain point into a web page. But that's not really done that much anymore. And we want to make it possible to be very granular in all kinds of linking that you're doing. Yeah.
So if I might not be happy that if you just link directly in that little window that the users can no longer see my advertisements that I'm selling, right?
Right. So the answer there is we actually think that they are happy that we're getting, sort of think of it this way. So YouTube was really successful because they, instead of saying, come to our website, just view videos on youtube.com, just come to youtube.com, instead they said, no, forget about us. We're going to make our little player widgets appear on every MySpace page we can get them on. And each one of them comes with both an anchor tag that points back to me, so that when someone clicks on it, they come back to youtube.com. So what you're trying to do as a content publisher is create backdoors around the internet to my website so that I can actually receive all these ad impressions. So the way we pitch it to iMeme is saying, look, instead of someone copying and pasting this code, if I wanted to get this player on my website right now, I don't even know how to do it. Here it is. So here's the embed code. I have to choose if I want to autoplay it or not, and then I have to copy this code. I have to go into my editing environment, log into my editing environment, and paste it in. And this allows someone to, instead of embed one iMeme widget at a time, embed 10 iMeme widgets, create more backdoors back to imeme.com. That's sort of the way we talk about it. Yeah?
So when you create a link, does it actually change the source code on the server? And what are you doing about revision control and server security?
Right. The key is, the reason why it works with every website and the reason why it works with no matter what content management platform you're on is because it's not actually rewriting the source code. It's dynamically overlaying all the links when the page gets loaded, so that those links, it's sort of the flexibility versus control, sort of thing. It's always that trade-off, and we make it really, really flexible, and then we don't write the links back to the end server because we'd have to do more integration. But we're working on ways to make that tighter. So, any other questions? Yeah.
You guys developing technology to tag a page and populate the box automatically if I don't want to spend the time doing the tags?
Yeah. So there's some really good examples of where that works, and there's some other examples of where it would break down. And so we have this philosophy of primarily making an editorially driven experience where the users are choosing every piece of content. But you're right, it's a lot of work. And so there's the spectrum of completely automatic, but a lot of spam and a lot of garbage. And then there's completely manual, but it's a lot of work, and you have really high quality stuff, but it's very burdensome, it takes a lot of time. So we're working on making it a little bit more automatic as well. Yeah. So let's see. Any other questions before I go on? Sure.
Speaking of spam or ads in general, as a user, I don't want to get rid of them.
Was
Can
that?
you help me?
Oh yeah, sure. If you want to get rid of them, you open up this window, and you hit this this button here, and it says these Apture multimedia windows have been hand-selected by the author, meaning they're intended for you to see them. I think a lot of people get confused when they see pop-ups and they think, oh no, this automatic, solution with advertising. And so we want to make it really easy if you don't want it to just turn it off. And so.
By the way, yes, that's why I turn off the pop-ups. Can you undo my selectively?
What's that? Undo?
If I turn off pop-ups, does that disable your
Oh, sorry. If you do this, if you do.
Converse is what you're doing.
Sorry, right. If you mean with Firefox or
Yeah,
Safari, right? It doesn't block our pop-up windows because these are not pop-up windows. They're actually generated by our code. So actually, it's one important thing. A lot of people get confused when we have. This is what a traditional pop-up window looks like, right? And people ask us, well, isn't this just a pop-up, right? Here's the difference. If I am on this page and I open up a YouTube video in this little window instead, well, what happens if I click back on the page? Oh no, it's gone. So if I want to get back, I have to drag this one out of the way and then get this pop-up back. So that's the whole reason why we do it inside of the browser. It's about trying to make, again, all that information access really, really efficient. The least movement of your mouse, the least number of clicks it takes to dive deeper. Yeah?
So where's the metadata for the links stored and how's it accessed?
It's stored on our servers. And so we have, we're hosted by Rackspace, which is the same guys who hosted YouTube. Yep.
But just to clarify, only the author can add this technology to their page?
That's right. So currently only the author can add links to the page. But there's a mechanism for inviting other editors. So if on this dashboard up here in the top right-hand corner, it says you have My Sites, your site editors. If I click on Site Editors, it opens up a window and then lets me go in here and invite new editors. So I can basically choose, with a list of email addresses, I can invite, Terry. Anyway, invite Terry and choose the permissions I want to grant him, and then he could actually edit pages on my website. This works really great for organizations. So if you're, Reuters and you want to allow everybody at Reuters to edit some portion of your site, you could easily do that with the software collaboratively. One thing I didn't show you, let's see here, is I can answer another question, by the way, while this is happening. Any other questions? Yeah.
The continuation question really is that, are you not worried that someone would add advertising rather than useful content to that?
So our terms of use prevent people from adding pure advertising. So you're not allowed, as a publisher, to just put a 300 by 250 image in here. I didn't show you, but you can actually use the software. Let's see here. Just log in. You can link your own content as well. So if you're on the page and you want to link up Rangoon to something, let's see if I search for market. Instead of doing market, I can go this link tab and actually link a specific web address, right? Or I can link a specific embed code. But if you tried to put an image in here that was just a pure advertisement, we would restrict you from doing that. Yeah?
Means to manage all your media at once, for instance, dead links, how to get rid of them?
Right. Currently, dead links are handled the same way that they're handled normally. So if someone embeds, say it's like Obama says something controversial, and then they embed that video on your blog like Politico, like a really high traffic site. Usually that video works for an hour, and then by the time you visit it an hour later, it says, sorry, this video currently unavailable, or is taken down. The same thing happens with our windows. You open it up, the window appears, but then it says the window is unavailable. But we're working on ways to sort of manage that more effectively. Because you're right, it's sort of like the rug can get pulled out from under you.
Do you consider releasing the media aggregator as just a standalone? Because that seems like it by itself would be extremely useful to have.
Yeah, well, I'll talk to you afterwards about how you think it'd be useful. We definitely think that it's, we're trying to figure out which pieces of the product to, sort of extend on and branch out. Yeah?
So it wasn't completely clear to me when you were opening up a number of pop-ups, if at some point the person can just sort of freely is browsing and just jumping from one thing to the next, or how much control is there on the actual content? In
terms of the actual content of the pop-ups, how do you mean? Oh, well, you have complete control. So if I wanted to know more about Rangoon, I can open up Rangoon. And then it doesn't do anything unless I tell it to, right? So if I want to open up the map, I can click on this map link, and it opens up the map. If I want to open up the slideshow, I can open up the slideshow. Is there, how do you mean?
Okay. So it's sort of like you're on that web page at that point.
Yeah.
The user ends up on that web page.
You mean,
Has access to everything. It's
as in you don't have to select that they can only open the map at all. Oh, right, exactly, yeah. So it's sort of an end for one deal. If you link the Wikipedia article, in Wikipedia's case, we actually open up the whole possibility of things you could go from that article. In the case of a video, it's only the video. But we're working on making ways that you can connect sort of other links to it. So one of the ways is the related links that I showed you. So you could add this related map down here. So you as a publisher could choose other items that you want to make accessible to someone. I think we're good. One thing I wanted to show you is the nice thing about aggregating all this content is that if I wanted to link, and not market, but if I search for, say, Rangoon, what comes up here is a list of previously linked items by the community. So what's really neat about this is you can actually, show not just the best stuff from the web, but then also the best stuff that the community has hand-selected. So here's all the items that people have selected about Rangoon, which is the capital of Myanmar or Burma. And you can see things that have been previously linked by the community and also previously linked by me. And if I go to the community, I can click on the taxi ride, and suddenly I'm driving down the streets of Burma. All users, yeah. But there's some neat applications because you could open that up to everybody at Reuters, for example. So you could say, by the community, by just people within Reuters, by just me. Those are the sort of the three levels you could do. So I think that's the basics I wanted to show you. So as far as implementation, it works on, as I said, all web browsers, works on any CMS platform. It's only one line of code to install, and it's free for bloggers. And I'll just share with you some information that we learned. We did a trial with the BBC for 2 weeks, about 2-3 weeks, and we received over 2,500 or so feedback emails from people saying they either did or did not like it. We had a 90% positive feedback rating, which we were thrilled about because you can see why this might resemble what people consider really annoying pop-ups and advertising and obtrusiveness and all that. When people open, this varies from site to site, but when people open any Apture window, they on average open 2 of them. But of course, this is going to depend on what kind of content you're linking. If you're linking to a Wikipedia article that always has those links to the next step, then you probably have more other pop-ups that are open. If you're linking to a video and that's all you've got, then on average your link count's going to be 1. And it's really interesting. I mean, what we're doing is we're really increasing the time spent that someone has on a web page. So if you're the New York Times, you're looking to increase the amount of time someone spends on your website. And the increase in time spent largely depends on what kind of content that you're linking. So if, for example, if you're linking a PDF that's 4 pages long and it's really interesting, someone's going to read that 4-page PDF on that 1 page, and that's going to have a large increase in time spent. If you're linking an image by itself, that's going to have a pretty short time spent. It's very interesting to see sort of how that breaks down per media type. And then we're also tracking how often these windows get maximized, and it's the same story there. I can't share any direct numbers right now, but basically, certain content gets maximized more often depending on what kind of content it is and how interesting it is. And so this is sort of a weird example, but philosophically, what this is sort of about is that for the longest time, there's been this difference between availability and accessibility. In terms of availability, we've always built the libraries, but we depend on people to go there and do the research themselves. And whether that's going to the physical library in the 1800s or it's opening up a browser window and opening up Google today, you're in charge of doing the research, which again is good. You're in control. You can always do that. But it's sort of, again, that overflow, that feeling of too much, this wave of information. How do you get through it? And this is about actually bringing those independent resources from the library to your attention. And I was reading this book by Doris Lessing the other day about how humanity is always forgetting the lessons that it's learned so many times previously. And what if there was better ways to basically take all that stuff we've already learned and use it more often in today's web experience and bring all that educational material to the public? I mean, part of the idea behind this is if you've got, every single time someone says there's a climate change report and so number is increasing by so much, you can actually link to that chart in that PDF. every single time someone quotes a psychology paper about a certain result, you could actually quote that specific area of that PDF or that slide in a PowerPoint presentation. Or every single time BarackObama.com or JohnMcCain.com want to say that in a speech in 2007 he supported the veteran so-and-so bill, you could link to the 45-minute speech, scroll to 34 minutes and 23 seconds, and link to that specific clip where he actually said that. So there's an element of transparency and richness that I think gets across here. There's actually a movement in sort of the Larry Lessig Creative Commons free culture movement to try and make all government activity transparent, so that anytime a congressman meets with a representative from the sugarcane industry and the next day they vote on a bill that maybe puts Coca-Cola in every school in the country, that would be all accessible in an open database. And so that transparency creates accountability. And so what we're trying to do is sort of bring that whole transparency and that richness to the whole internet. And I think that there's some really powerful applications that we've yet to see people do. It really just depends on the education of people using the software. One thing I learned in my creative writing class actually when I was at Stanford was show, don't tell. If you want to say it was a sad situation, or you want to say he was drafted or he was bummed out, don't say that. That doesn't, you understand when someone says that, but that doesn't mean anything to you. And so this is all about sort of showing, but not necessarily depending on great textual narratives to do it. Sorry, this is about building up in Manhattan. Sorry. That's all I've got. I'll take any questions. We're hiring as well, JavaScript, Django engineers, and great human-computer interaction designers.
So one can argue that if you try selling this product as an editor or a web-based editor or a content creation and management system rather than an add-on, which is totally heavily dependent on advertisements. It's completely beyond your control. And did you think about that option, or what is the feedback?
So licensing it completely as an editorial add-on versus an advertising-driven revenue share sort of thing. We're certainly exploring all those things. I mean, we're very early stage right now. We've got, I think with publishers, publishers are always going to be, how do I fit more revenue into each of my pages? And so that's really what we're trying to help them solve that problem right now. Certainly with bloggers, that's what we are. We're an editorial add-on to your existing software, letting you do rich things you couldn't do with your existing software. We'll see sort of how far down the line we go on the editorial side by making it, maybe you start off with a blank sheet of paper and you can just start adding all these elements in there in the future. It's going to be interesting to see. We don't know. Yeah?
You're talking about if something was bad, it can be taken off. How do you monitor this stuff?
How do we monitor?
If somebody if they violate the terms of...
Right. Actually, that's not us. So if something is bad, we assume that YouTube's going to take it down. So in other words, if you were from American Idol, and someone posts an American Idol clip on YouTube, and then people using Apture suddenly start linking to that clip, if you want to stop the root of the problem, you go to YouTube, and you say, YouTube, you have to comply with the DMCA, take down this video, and they do it in a matter of minutes or hours, I guess.
Could you bring that to the terms of service and advertisements?
Oh, the terms of service and advertisements.
If somebody fills up the whole thing with an advertisement.
Oh, sorry. Oh, in terms of that sense. Yeah, we don't currently monitor that. If we see it, someone reports it to us, then we make sure it doesn't exist.
I think it's one of those things that once it becomes a problem, you fix it, and we haven't seen it become a problem, unfortunately.
Yeah, so we're very early. We launched basically beginning of July. So we're only been out a few months. When we start seeing those kinds of applications, I think we'll have a problem that there'll be a lot of people using the software, and that'll be a good thing for us, and we can start actually taking on those challenges.
One more small question.
Yeah.
Was there anything interesting to learn from the 10% that didn't like it?
Yeah, actually, I think it's a great question. Wikipedia is often just, the audience was also the UK audience. It's funny, it was not the United States. It was trialed just to the UK-facing BBC site. And I think the UK audience is really aversive to Wikipedia as a source and the trustedness of that source. And I completely understand that. I mean, it is not a verifiable source of information. And so the BBC does have a blurb on their site that says the BBC is not responsible for the content of external websites they link to. That said, they were still displaying Wikipedia content on the BBC. And so I think a lot of the users were frustrated or at least annoyed that BBC was not just linking to its own content. But again, the idea here is that sometimes you don't have the content. I mean, you might have, if you're the Washington Post, you have the best political content in the world. But if you're writing about the release of the new Iron Man movie and you want to link to the history of the comic book, that's not going to be written by your journalists, and you're not the experts on it. And so the idea is, where's the best place to leverage the content in these different libraries so that you can tell the whole story. And hey, look, they're giving it away for free to use specifically for that purpose. So why not use it? Yeah.
Maybe sort of another aspect on that question in terms of especially sources that have a certain a branded authority to protect as well. I mean, another difference between the center of the page and the borders is that there's an authoritative claim that's being made about the stuff that's in there. And so where can you go from there? Generally, it's just a reference, but perhaps it might be supportive material for which there's also a claim being made by that same organization. Does the mechanism provide a way of indicating that in a natural way to the user?
So there is a caption feature, so no matter what content you link, you can write whatever caption you want at the bottom. So you could say, here's the Wikipedia article, and then the very bottom of the Apture window, you can say, the first sentence here is, or the first thing he says is false because of X, Y, and Z, or I'm not sure exactly what sense you're talking about, but you can basically comment on the content that you are linking so that you can at least provide your own editorial perspective on top of it.
Disclaimer.
Or at least a disclaimer,
or
exactly.
A claim.
Right. No, it's something we take very seriously. I mean, we're talking about other ways to make it clearer to the user, because we're certainly making it so efficient that people might forget what they're reading. We do offer branding in the Apture window, so there's a little Wikipedia logo on the top right-hand side. If you link to a Washington Post article, there'll be a little Washington Post branding on the top right-hand corner as well. But it is difficult. Actually, when I was at Stanford, I remember talking to Anthony Wagner, who's in the learning and memory department, the psychology department at Stanford, talking about how do you make it a memorable experience, and how do you make sure you don't give people the wrong associations that they falsely, create while reading something that might, transfer authority of one source to another. We're still working on it. Yeah.
Any thoughts about how the user experience might translate to mobile devices, smaller screens and so on? What would need to change?
I think that it's really not, in terms of the pop-up experience, it's not meant for mobile devices. If you think about it, what we're really doing is we're taking a large rectangle and we're subdividing it into smaller rectangles. And if you start with a rectangle this big, then it's not really clear that there'd be a reason to subdivide it. It does work on the iPhone, that said, because the iPhone is just running basically Safari. And it works in Safari, but in general, I think the mobile applications have more to do with the multimedia connectivity than it has to do with specifically Windows. Yep.
Is it possible to use personal library? Like I saw a part where you could upload individual files, but what if I already had a huge repository of images somewhere else, but it's not on Flickr or anything?
That's a great question. So we do support that. In fact, if you were the New York Times, the way you would see that search results list is you would see New York Times images, New York Times videos, New York Times news articles, and New York Times topics pages as the top 4 result categories. And beneath that, you would see Wikipedia, YouTube videos, Flickr images, things like that. So the way that we're structuring it is specifically, not only linked to these external resources, but more cleverly and more easily expose your internal library. Yeah. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. I've got stickers up here if you want stickers.
For more, please visit us at stanford.edu.